Breaking tonight, Christians around the world are marking Ash Wednesday, many with heavy hearts amid growing violence and threats from terrorists. Today's services come days after merciless thugs murdered 21 Christians in Libya for the supposed crime of being a Christian. The terrorists forcing the men to get on their knees before they slit their throats and vowed to conquer Rome next. At the Vatican today, Pope Francis paid tribute to the victims.
I would like to ask you again to pray for our Egyptian brothers who were killed 3 days ago in Libya for the mere fact that they were Christian.
Here in the U.S., the Archbishop of Washington urging congregants to remember the persecuted.
So, my brothers and sisters, when we walk out these doors onto Rhode Island, wearing these ashes, let us simply in our heart pray for those who can't do that or do it at the risk of dying.
Earlier, I spoke with Texas Senator Ted Cruz, a potential 2016 candidate, about this atrocity and the initial White House response. Senator Cruz, thank you for being here. And as we see that act take place, 21 Christians beheaded, and as we see 45 people burned to death by ISIS in Iraq, the White House refuses to identify the religion of the first group of victims and holds a summit on violent extremism without identifying that it is radical Islamists that we are fighting and that is committing these horrific acts. Your thoughts?
Well, Megan, you are exactly right. ISIS is the face of evil. And these latest atrocities, our heart breaks. And to see 21 Coptic Christians murdered, beheaded by radical Islamic terrorists, to see 45 people lit on fire, this is horrific, and it is deliberate, and it is targeted. It is targeted at Christians. It is targeted at Jews. It's targeted at Muslims in the region who do not accede to the radical Islamist view. And unfortunately, the president and this administration dogmatically refuses to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism. You cannot defeat an enemy if you refuse to acknowledge what it is.
Why can't you? Why not?
Because you cannot focus on who you are targeting and what you are trying to do. You know, this week we saw the spokesperson for the State Department say we cannot defeat ISIS by killing them. Instead, we need to give them all jobs. Now with respect, that is idiocy. The solution here is not expanded Medicaid in Iraq. The solution is the full force of U.S. military power to destroy the leaders of ISIS. They have declared war, jihad, on the United States. Jihad is another word the president doesn't say. Instead, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I was at the National Prayer Breakfast where the president spoke, and bizarrely, he compared these atrocities to the Crusades in this strange act of moral relativism. Now, last I checked, the Crusades began a millennia ago. And I don't think it's too much to ask the president to stay in the current millennium. They ended over 700 years ago.
What did you make of the fact?
Moral relativism.
What did you make of the fact, Senator, that he refused to call the 21 victims who had their throats slit by ISIS Christians? He called them Egyptian citizens, didn't mention their faith.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a president and an administration that has turned a hard heart to the persecution and suffering of Christians abroad, to the persecution and suffering of Jews abroad. You look at the Christians. Where is the president speaking up loudly and consistently for Pastor Saeed Abedini, an American in prison in Iran, imprisoned for professing his Christian faith? When Miriam Ibrahim was in Sudan, sentenced to 100 lashes and to hang by the neck until dead for her Christian faith, the president would not speak up. And you know, just a couple of weeks ago, the president made reference to the horrific terrorist attack in Paris, where radical Islamists went into a kosher deli, and the president said it was a, quote, random act of violence. There's nothing random about it. These were radical Islamists going to a kosher deli to target people because they were Jews and to murder them because of their Jewish faith. And this bizarre, politically correct doublespeak, it is simply not befitting a commander-in-chief whose first obligation should be to protect the United States of America.
You know what his argument is on this, which is there's no reason to admit that we're in a holy war because that gives the terrorists what they want, and he's worried about alienating those Muslim countries that right now are willing to stand up and fight ISIS. Does it undermine our global effort, the coalition he's trying to build, to pit the world against Islam, even the radical form of Islam?
What undermines the global effort is for the President of the United States to be an apologist for radical Islamic terrorists, to analogize it to the Crusades from 700 years ago. You know, what would be far better to see is the kind of courage that was demonstrated just a few weeks ago by Egyptian President al-Sisi. Now, President al-Sisi in Cairo gave a speech that was courageous when he called out the radical Islamic terrorists. And President al-Sisi is a Muslim. And he said, we Muslims need to stand up together against these radical terrorists who are perverting our faith and turning it into a mandate for murder. Why don't we see the President of the United States demonstrating that same courage just to speak the truth about the face of evil we're facing right now?
Senator Ted Cruz, always great to see you, sir.
Thank you, Megan.
We have breaking news tonight involving Bruce Jenner, a deadly car crash, and the shock police reportedly got when they looked at video of the whole thing. That is still ahead. Plus, things are moving quickly in the trial of the man who killed Chris Kyle, the American sniper. Up next, what the killer's family had to say about the hours before Kyle was shot dead.
The thing that haunts me are all the guys that I couldn't save.